Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the RDH Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chad. Joined alongside me is my brother, Tanner. How's it hanging, dude?
Well, I'm doing well. This is the third time we've started this podcast, and I'm,
Well, technical difficulties.
technical difficulties. We're feeling good. It's the holidays. You kind of get a couple breaks when it comes to the holidays, so I'm feeling good. But I'm kind of in like a neutral zone right now because like some of my
Hmm.
teams are winning, and another some of my teams are losing horribly. We'll get into it, but like I'm in like this middle zone right now. I'm just kind of waiting for Christmas. It's very soon, and Chad will be here very soon. So I'm anticipating a lot of big things.
Christmas time's always, the best time of the year in our family. We have what we call the Hangst Olympics, created by myself and Logan, fellow listener, and, pretty much member of the family at this point, brother. And here's a big thing. There's a couple things that go on in the Hanks household, all the time, but especially during Christmas. TV's always on football. You know what I'm saying? TV's always on football, and there's a lot of poker going on. There's a lot of other stuff going on, but we won't get into all that. We're talking sports. This week, we're not going to hit any college football because the college football playoffs are coming up. Like Tanner said, they're very soon. But we are hitting some NFL Week 15 recap, and then we got Week 16 matchup preview and picks. Tanner said it first. Some of his teams are winning. Some of his teams are losing. Start us out with the Browns. That's one of your teams. How did they look this week?
I mean,
Recap the fans.
it's hard. Like it's the same kind of story. You know what I mean? Like it's up and down with them. But they're winning games, and that's the important part. I think that's just the stat you need to take home. Like yes, they're turning the ball over. Yes, they're getting turnovers, but at the end of the day, they're winning games. And Joe Flacco is going out there and he's putting out, I'll say, a performance that is enough. You know what I mean? It's like if you watch that game against the Bears, it's very hit and miss. Joe Flacco throws an interception here, and it's like, oh, that was terrible. And then he just rips a touchdown pass to Amari Cooper, who runs after catch for like 30 yards, and it's like, that was awesome. Njoku is just getting dimed up every week, and it's just like, yes, our offense, this is what it's supposed to look like. When the passing game is on, I mean, Cleveland has very good receivers. I'll say that. Amari Cooper, just for an example, like they're doing well in the pass game, and they're starting to get a hang of it, but turnovers continue to be the problem for Cleveland, but at the end of the day, the Bears just couldn't capitalize, I think, off of those turnovers enough. And, the Browns, they went down. They won it at the end, even though they were trailing, I'm pretty sure, almost all the entire game. But they're not what I would expect a number 5 seed to be. You look over on the other side and you see either Dallas or Philly, and you're like, okay, that's a juggernaut right there. One of those two teams. We'll get into Philly, but like, they're better than Cleveland. Like that number 5 seed is looking rough over there in the AFC. But hey, I'm a fan. They're winning games, and that's all that
They're
matters.
they're leading their division. They're winning games, like you said. With a lot of play of their defense. The Browns build
Of
off of their
course.
defense.
Yeah.
That's what they've done historically. This past week, Notre Dame guy Jeremiah Owusu Koromora,
Nice.
and linebacker slash defensive end, followed him a bunch of Notre Dame, had a second round grade on the player. For late first, early second is what I had on the player. And, he dominated that game.
He played
I
really
watched
well.
that game because I had a lot of fantasy, players playing. We don't need to get into what I did this week in fantasy, oof, down bad over here. But with the Browns, you had the inconsistent play of Joe Flacco, but the, consistent play of the defense. And the Browns are going to lean on their defense like they do every week. And, they haven't necessarily faced a team that has that juggernaut, of a quarterback, as of, recent weeks, but it's coming soon. You know what I mean? It's coming
Hmm.
soon. And the Browns, unless, they control their destiny at this point, right? They're at the top of their division. And
Well,
unless
they're
they
number
take a
2, but yeah.
nosedive, or number two, unless they take a nosedive for the 5 seed, correct? Because Baltimore's there. Unless they take a nosedive, they're going to make the playoffs, like Tanner said, because they're
Hmm.
sitting there at the 5 seed. So the Browns are not a team that you would think would be in the playoffs, especially with the quarterback, being Joe Flacco. But hey, when you're throwing over 300 yards a game, you're getting it done, right? And that's what he does. And it's not necessarily the prettiest thing, but at the same time, like Tanner said, if you're winning games, you're winning games, right? Pittsburgh Steelers, that's just ugly football all the time. and they don't really win a ton of games. No, just kidding. Just kidding. That was just a
But they
shot at
don't.
Steelers.
But they don't win a ton of games.
Yeah,
You know?
not a ton this year. But recapping a little bit more, and then we're going to jump into the matchup preview and pick section. But you know, we're not going to talk injuries this week because nothing too significant happened. But we definitely got some surprise results of the week. The Lions. I know it's crazy to put them in a surprise result of the week, but they're back finally. You're waiting for that offense to get going. Jared Goff, 5 touchdowns, 42-17 win over the Broncos. The Broncos aren't a bad team, and they've been on a run, and they've beaten really good teams recently. And the Lions just steamrolled them and just ran them into the ground. What did you have on that game?
I just really think that you're starting to see the emergence of another all-time great tight end. You know, Sam Laporta, he's a rookie. He's playing insanely well. I mean, this kid is just balling out almost every single week. You know, I mean, at this point, he's probably up there with the cream of the crop in the NFL when it comes to tight ends. At least this season, I mean, he's putting on a hell of a show. Jared Goff's his quarterback, and like Jared's diming him up, and this kid is getting yards after catch. He's playing really well. He's targeting him in the end zone. He's getting contested catches, and he's just all out playing like a big body receiver, which is something you love to see from your tight end, especially someone who can go down and block there in the trenches too. So he's a guy that can do it both. And when you got those studs at running back, you got a couple studs at receiver. I mean, they're just loaded all around. You know what I mean? Like Gibbs, Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like these guys are just putting it up every single week. It kind of seems like, even when they don't win, I feel like they get production, but it's just like a missed catch here and there that'll kind of put them off. But like, this is a really good football team, and when Jared Goff dimes up his receivers, who he's playing and he's accurate, this team is really hard to beat. So I like the Lions, man. I think the offense is back up. It's back and locked and loaded. We're gonna see it for the postseason because they're winning that division. Let's be honest here, folks.
There's no way they drop that division. If they do, that'd be a colossal mess up. But yeah, I mean, to hit on your tight end point, you've seen it with the Detroit Lions recently, especially with their tight end play, right? Like before this, they had TJ Hawkinson. A lot of people forget about that, right?
Yeah.
Like Detroit had a premier tight end who's one of the best in the league, top 3. Behind Kelsey sitting there number 1, Andrews is right there, and probably him right behind him. So tight end play of the Detroit Lions is kind of what they do. That's what they're built on. And they drafted Eric Ebron before that really early in the draft, pre him. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to feed your tight end. I didn't necessarily see Laporte I didn't have him as highly graded last year coming out of the draft as I had Dalton Kincaid. But hey, Laporte was right there at my number 2 tight end. So, hey, it's a really good player. And when your rookie is getting that much production this early, that's scary. And like Tanner said, he's already solidified himself top 10 in the league for tight end this year. And if he continues on to this trajectory, he's going to jump in the top 5, top 3 conversation. And I love the play of the tight ends. I'm a big fan of the position. And there's another incredible tight end coming in this year's draft with Brock Bowers the tight end out of Georgia. So don't forget about him coming in here. Literally Travis Kelce 2.0.
So good.
And I have a mix between Travis Kelce and Gronkowski. Literally, this kid is incredible. He's going to be drafted in the first round. He should be drafted in the top 10 unless he tests bad at the NFL Combine, but we'll see. Completely agree with the Lions. They're looking good, and this is when they need to continue to stack together those wins to lock up the division and get that confidence going before they get into playoffs. Baker Mayfield. This is your guy. This is your guy. And so is Raheem Mostert. Those are your guys.
Pretty good guys.
And he had a perfect passer rating this week with a win over the Packers. 4 touchdowns, 381 yards, and they are now sitting at top of the NFC South. So I picked them to win the NFC South. We said that this division was going to be extremely close. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you picked the Saints, and we both said it was going to be a game or two. And right now, it's the Bucs at 7-7, and the Saints right below them at 7-7. So we're going to see who wins this division. The Saints have been having extremely inconsistent quarterback play. Not saying Baker's the most consistent, but hey, he's winning football games, and what is he doing? He's giving the ball to Mike Evans and giving the ball to Chris Godwin and just letting them make plays.
Yeah, it's a simple formula. Um, I think their running back play has been really good too. If you kind of watch that over the past couple of weeks, they've been getting really, really good just on the ground. Especially fantasy wise, that kid is going nuts. But they're playing really well. It's not just Baker. I think the defense is playing up to what they can be and what they showed that they can be a couple years ago in the Super Bowl. And it's a pretty good football team. You put Baker back there and he's got a lot of weapons. I've been saying it all year. He's not a bad quarterback. He can get his ball. He can get the ball to his receivers, and he can do it efficiently. I mean, he's going to throw that thing at you. It's going to hurt. He's got a dart on him, but it's just he's playing really well. He's in Cleveland. A lot of his criticism was interceptions, turnovers, and big moments and stuff like that. It's not that he's not doing that, but he's just he's putting the ball in good positions a lot more often. He's not turning the ball over nearly as much. He's kind of, I think, maturing as a quarterback as time goes on, and he's making Cleveland sick with every good game that he has. I love it, man. I really do, even
You
as a
got,
Cleveland fan.
well, yeah. You mean making Tampa? Oh, making Cleveland. I get you,
Yeah.
because they let him go, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my gosh, he's winning there too. Yeah, no, I totally understand that, and hey, he's a local kid in Austin. Went to Lake Travis, if I'm not mistaken, and grew up watching him, play. And when you're a former number one overall pick, when nobody thought you were going to be, and you're continuing to win football games and getting your team to a potential playoff push, hey, you're going to get paid, and that's the reason he was taken number one overall. Has he necessarily lived up to the hype? That's up for debate, right? But hey, he is right there at the top of the NFC South, and we'll see how that division plays out. One more game to hit before we talk on the Cowboys. Tanner out of nowhere just calls the Seahawks beating the Eagles. He backup quarterback Drew Lock, game-winning touchdown to Jackson Smith and Jigbo. What a play! What a catch!
Oh yeah.
Fingertips. He brought it in. The announcers were talking about potentially looking at that as more of a catch no catch thing. I'm not sure about that one. I think that's a catch, but hey,
That's a catch.
they got
It was a catch.
the job done,
Yeah, they
and
did.
you called it. Take us through that game.
I think it's just the turnovers from Philly. Jalen Hurts, he's not playing like the Jalen Hurts of last year. He's up there in turnovers for overall turnovers for quarterbacks in the league, and they only scored 17 points. In the past two games, they've had like two touchdowns. It's just not looking very good. Like they're just not offensively playing that well. I just feel like they're not utilizing their strengths a lot. They just kind of put themselves in holes, and they have a really good receiving core. It's not that they're not open because they are. It's AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. Like, how are you going to cover them? I promise you, their routes are fine. But give credit to that Seahawks defense. I think they got to the quarterback when it mattered. Jalen, he's like I said, turning the ball over. So it fumbles drives, it stops drives, it just makes that hurt so much more. And if you're not having faith in your quarterback at that point, it's just like, where's the offense going to go? You have to have confidence in your system, and I don't think they really do right now. I think that they can push it, and they can do that the entire way down the field if they really wanted to. But obviously they want to try. They want to try a little bit, but it's just Jalen Hurts needs to be the Jalen Hurts of last year. I think he has every piece around him that he needs. I think DeAndre Swift needs to get a little bit more utilized in that offense. I just think that team is just not playing to their strengths right now, and the defense kind of sucks, which is really weird to say because it's Philadelphia, especially that secondary. The defensive line is pretty good, but secondary is just horrid, terrible.
Well, when you have big play Slay out with the knee injury, there goes 50%
Yeah,
of your secondary. He got the knee injury, what wasn't there to play. But the big thing with Philly is, like you said, the defense has not really been playing up to what they used to, when they won the Super Bowl. But I don't know if any defense is going to be playing up to that, or what they played last year. They were a really good defensive team last year, top of the league.
but I think
But
they were a better offensive team.
oh, I mean, for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
defensive wise, they were still,
Yeah, they were up
head and
there.
shoulders above what they are this year. They got lucky when they signed Shaquille Leonard and the ties that he had with their head coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got lucky with that signing because Dallas was right there, and he's starting and playing games. He started the day they signed him. That's Philadelphia has injuries in the linebacker position and in the cornerback position. They have injuries across their lineup, and I think that's one of the main reasons they're not the Philadelphia of old. Also, not to mention, Jalen is not at 100%. He's not at 100%. I understand you saw him run out of bounds and everything, and you saw him pick up multiple plays with his legs, but he's just not 100%. That knee's not 100%. I don't think. It looks like he lets up every time before he goes out of bounds, and then also, it was said that he was sick. He wasn't even supposed to really play that game.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna chalk that one up to potential or injuries and then everything else. But
But
this is not the Eagles team
to be
of
fair,
old. This
can you
is not.
chalk up the last 2 games as well to that?
Uh, I can't chalk up the last one because I want to say they had Slay in that one.
They did.
In the game before that, I know they had Slay in it, so I can't until Slay goes out because I understand that a lot of the team is injured and everything, but Darius Slay is Darius Slay,
Yeah.
right? Like he's a number one corner on most teams. Some teams that already have that top 5 corner, like Denver with Patrick Surtain, the Jets with Sauce Gardner. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
With those type of players, he's not a number one. He's a number 2 corner, but that he's a solid corner. And yes, he's definitely lost a step. It seems like this season, but yeah, I think I'd chalk it up maybe the last 2, but not the last 3. But the thing with the Eagles though is here's the thing. If they've ever been injured, they've been so deep that it doesn't seem to matter, right? And it also seems like that their injuries are when they've made the Super Bowl run and last year's run that they were one of the least injured teams in the league in terms of starters whenever they were there starting the playoffs after their bye. That bye did them absolute wonders last year, if I remember correctly. But long-winded answer here. No, they are not the same Philadelphia as they were last year. When was the last time the Philadelphia Eagles lost 3 in a row?
I don't
You know
know.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's been since it's been pre Jalen Hurts. It was Carson Wentz. It was those guys when they lost 3 in a row. And I'm not sure Carson Wentz even lost 3 in a row multiple times. So it's definitely a different Eagles team. This Seahawks team can get hot, and it was very obvious that they didn't have a number 1 corner in this game, right? Because what happened, at the end of the game, Seahawks just fed it to their 2 wide receivers that they always feed the ball to, and it was very obvious what they were doing.
I mean, it's easy.
Very obvious.
It's easy. Yeah.
Yeah, and when you don't have a number 1 corner, that's what happens. Dallas, Deron Bland, you can say he's not a number 1 corner. He has most pick sixes in NFL history in a season. We've still got some games to go, but they targeted him this year and got 200 plus receiving yards on him, right? 1 week, and then next week you see him bounce back. Eagles don't have that guy to bounce back right now. They're betting on like rookie Sidney Brown. No disrespect to Sidney Brown, but he's not a number 1 cornerback in the NFL, right? So I'm going to chalk it up a lot to injuries, and Philadelphia's got a very easy schedule coming up. If Philadelphia struggles this week against the Giants, then maybe we can start to have the conversation of, okay, what's going on here with this Philadelphia team? Because if you look at the last 3 losses, Cowboys, Niners, and I don't remember if they beat the Chiefs or not.
They beat them.
Okay, so but any 2 out of 3 of those teams, I can't even remember the other one. That's solid teams.
Yeah.
So that's my long-winded answer.
It's tough. I mean, it's not the team you want to see. I think there's like glimpses here and there of the team of last year. Like Jalen Hurts, like you said, with his running ability, being able to get outside the pocket and make plays. AJ Brown. I mean, in the first half of the season, we were debating whether or not AJ Brown was the best receiver in the NFL. And it's just
he's still
kinda,
up there.
He really is. I mean, he's probably still top 3
over 1,200 receiving yards.
In receiving yards, yeah. But it's just the production has just fallen off. There's just not the points. You don't see the points getting scored on the board. You don't see that the big plays. You don't see those sideline fades and anything like that. So I just think, I don't know, man. That guy is so good in space. He's so good contested. Like he's just so good everywhere on the field. I would just give him more chances with the ball. I would just feed your superstars. No offense to Jalen, but he's not playing to Jalen level right now. He's not playing to what he should be. So get the ball out quick, get it to your playmakers. Give DeAndre Swift, get Devonta Smith, get the ball to your playmakers quick. because you do not want these plays to get extended. I get it, you have a good offensive line, but it's just not working out right now. You got to try something different. So I don't know. It's a 3-game skid. I think they'll get back on top of it though. But let's move on to the
For
Cowboys,
sure.
who look a lot worse, in my opinion.
They got steamrolled, by the Bills. Got absolutely dominated by the Bills, and hey, they somehow in that big loss clinched a playoff spot. So that's the bright side of it. But go ahead and start us off with that Bills and Cowboys game. That was pathetic to say the least.
What do you even start with? Like there's so much that went wrong. I think Brandon Aubrey was pretty good for the one field goal he made. It's just Dak didn't look good at all. He was overselling receivers, and the receivers weren't even open to begin with. Not to mention the offensive line when Zach Martin went out. It was terrible. I mean, it was just terrible. And Tyron Smith was getting beat like a drum all day. Terrence Steele looked like he had never played football before. But it's just one of those things that just couldn't get it going offensively at all. And the injury to Zach Martin really didn't help things. I think they could move the ball a little bit before he got injured, but afterwards, definitely not. In the
Well, and
defense,
that's what I wanted to bring up before you hit the defense.
yeah,
That's the reason I didn't hit the injury report earlier in the episode, is because I wanted to wait for this talk right here. But Zach Martin, All Pro guard of the Dallas Cowboys, went out mid game, and it was noticeable.
I know, yeah.
Listen early this offseason and listen to how much Tanner and I talked about how important his contract is when he was holding out. So yeah, completely agree. They did not run the ball at all afterwards, even a little bit. So that was definitely a negative. Go ahead with the defense.
Yeah, it's just I think you're starting to see the absence of Jonathan Hankins very, very apparently. I mean, if you didn't see that historic James Cook performance, like he's just
Lost me fantasy.
yeah, dude. And it's just the Cowboys defense was not good against the run even a little bit. I mean, it reminded me of that like 2018 game against the Rams, and where they just could run all over them at will. It was like 6-7 yards a carry, and it's just one of those things where it's like you have to shore up that spot. If you can't stop the run, you're not going to win the game. It's I commended DQ last week when he was able to make adjustments and stop the run, moving Micah D Law inside, but I just felt like that didn't happen this time. I felt like they didn't the Bills were kind of running in very unique ways, very creative ways, running to the outside. They toss the ball out, and they sometimes they're running the inside, and then they go over here, a little quick screen, and it's just like bam, James Cook up the flat, up, and he just goes straight to the end zone, and it's just like they were just outcoached. I think defensively, I think like I said, a big part too was that Mozzie Smith wasn't getting it done. He wasn't holding it down. Those DTs were not doing good at all, and I don't really know what to say about it at this point, other than they need a defensive tackle, and it's not Mozzie Smith. Hopefully Jonathan Hankins can get better. I'm not really too sure about the details on his injury, but they're missing a lot. I think too, in these kind of situations, you look to your stars to show up and play really well, and I didn't see Micah Parsons that much at all. I think it has been proven time in and time out in the NFL that if you can double team, you can put guys on Micah Parsons. The rest of the defense won't do anything. It sucks because Micah's a generational talent, but you can't fight off like three dudes. When the other guys are doing nothing. So I think we need the rest of the defense to step up. I really don't have a doubt in Micah, because if you got getting double teamed, triple teamed at this point, it's like yeah, they respect you. They want you to. They want to stop you for a reason because you're a game wrecker. You can go in there and you can wreck the game. But if all you got to do is stop Micah, that's it. You can do anything else you want. I mean, that's pretty easy to me. We need someone else to step up on that D line, and it just wasn't apparent. So, that's pretty much it. I think there's just not really much you can do in a lot of those situations too, because Zach Martin going out, the injury to Jonathan Hankins too. I'm not blaming it on injuries, but that's just kind of where I'm seeing it going. The number two guys, depth players, they got to step up. They really do.
You gotta have results from your depth guys, right? You have to, especially when your stars go out, like you said. The hit on a couple points you said. Jonathan Hankins, I never would have thought the defensive tackle from Clemson would have had that big of an impact on this Cowboys defensive line, but he has. And also, uh, this is year one, but I was not a fan of the Mozzie Smith pick. He is a rookie. I am by no means saying that this is another, Michigan defensive lineman, cough cough Taco
Yeah,
Charlton,
don't say
uh,
that.
that we drafted way too early. That I also said we drafted way too early when it happened. But Mozzie Smith looked undersized
He did.
that game.
He
Like
did.
he literally just looked undersized.
I thought the
If I'm
same
not
thing.
mistaken, yeah, when I'm not mistaken, in college he never looked undersized once. I understand it's a completely different league with NCAA and the NFL, but I mean he got absolutely destroyed. I don't know if I even saw one good play from the defensive line all day, Micah included. And I
Hmm.
understand you're double teamed and you're triple teamed, and I know that Demarcus Lawrence on the other side of that defensive line is kind of turned into more of a run stopper as opposed to a sack, a go getter like he used to be earlier in his career. But with the struggles that you have on the defensive interior, I don't understand why Demarcus Lawrence is not a permanent move on the inside. Because you need all the help you can get, and he's bigger than like a ton of those guys, which is absolutely insane to me. But
Hmm.
you need more beef up front. You need to stop the run because, like Tanner said, if you don't stop the run, then the pass is going to get going, and it's you're going to lose, and you're going to be playing from behind the whole time.
I
To hit
think
on,
before you go
oh,
on,
go ahead.
I think the reason they don't do it is because who's going to replace him on the outside? Sam Williams, Dorrance Armstrong. Like, there's not a lot of options. You know what I mean? There's not someone who can go in and make the impact. And I think he's still a good pass rusher. I think he can still get to the quarterback, and he might be able to do it more efficiently than these other guys. These other guys who are sitting behind him. So I don't know. I just don't think they have another option. I think that's kind of like their biggest thing. But yeah, I mean, continue. When you're getting gouged that much in the run, I guess it shouldn't even matter, right?
Yeah, you got to try everything at that point, right? You got
Mm-hmm.
to you got to throw the kitchen sink at him, as they say. You have to do something in that position, and just like you said, we made halftime adjustments to Dallas Cowboys. The previous game that they played, they did not. It looks like they didn't at all when they played against Buffalo. I mean, from the beginning, that game was over. You know what I mean? You could
Mm-hmm.
tell from the beginning that that was a game that Buffalo was not going to lose. And we said in the previous episode, this is a Buffalo Bills team that has to win. They have to win out to even get a shot at the playoffs. They don't control their own destiny. So a loss is not on the table. And you are getting a playoff Buffalo Bills team that's hitting on every cylinder. You're getting the playoff Buffalo Bills team that played the Kansas City Chiefs that one year when they should have won. And
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen was just going back and forth with Patrick Mahomes, but the Chiefs just had the ball at the end of the game, and that's how it happened. But Dallas in that game wasn't even close. And I said it previously going into this game that if Dallas was going to drop a game, it was going to be this one because the Bills are in my opinion, the best team. Barring, I don't care about the records. I think I would take the Bills over the Lions. I would take the Bills over the Dolphins, in my opinion. In a must-win game, I would take the Bills over them. That's just me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is going to play a very inconsistent Lions or a very inconsistent Dolphins team as of late, and a very inconsistent Lions team up until this week. So it's two big games for Dallas. Couple last points I'll hit on the defense. If they don't figure it out in the run, get ready for Raheem Mostert to have another career
Career.
day.
Yep.
Oh, and by the way, you got A-Chain that's actually back from the rookie from A&M, and he likes to run on the outside. So you might not even have to worry about running on the inside because Raheem Mostert and A-Chain are speed backs, and nobody has any idea if Tyreek's going to play yet or not. So it's a huge week for Dallas, and you're facing a ton of speed, and you have to figure it out. You didn't really have a ton of speed guys going against Buffalo, and Dallas usually gets cooked with speed. So we'll see what happens. You also need a lot more production on your offensive side of the ball. Uh, you know, I don't know if you can call it a failure because there's so many games left in the season. There's playoffs, but Tony Pollard has just not looked like the Tony Pollard of old. Once again, it's very hard to blame it on him because he's not even in half the drives.
Mm-hmm.
Rico was in, it seemed to be more than Tony Pollard this past game. Up until this past game, Tony Pollard was actually cooking, had a really good past 2-3 games. This week, he didn't necessarily do anything. Nobody on the offensive side really did. Tanner already alluded to it that the offense, the receivers weren't getting open. If you're not open, it's not going to happen. Dallas also on the offensive side of the ball didn't look like they were getting the ball out quickly, which I don't understand what happened.
I don't get it.
Because it almost looked like that West Coast style offense just completely went out, and we went to the old Dallas Cowboys and the old Dallas Cowboys for play calling. I didn't think that the Cowboys were going to be doing this at the end of the season. Now, when you have these teams that you're playing at the end of the season, if you take 2 losses out of those 3 teams, I wouldn't necessarily consider that the worst losses ever. You know what I mean? If you're losing to the Lions and you're losing to the Eagles, you're losing to the Lions and you're losing to the Bills because Bills already got it there, or, the Dolphins and you beat one of the other teams, Dallas is already locked in the playoff spot. I know Philly lost against the Seahawks, but I don't see them losing. I don't see it happening the rest of the season. It could, but I don't see it happening the rest of the season. So, last thing I'll say, it's a bounce back week this week, and it's good that it is because it's the Miami Dolphins, and it's going to be probably a pretty high scoring game. And the last question I'll ask you about the Cowboys, and then we'll jump on to the matchup preview and pick section of the podcast for all of our bettors. For Dallas, do you see this team leaning more heavily on the run or on the pass against Miami? Because Miami's defensive line is stout. And now they've got Jalen Ramsey back.
Yeah, their secondary is disgusting.
What do you think the game plan is going into this week? Because nothing worked last week, so everything's on the table this week. What do you think the game plan is?
I think they're going to pound the rock. I really do, because that's just something that was completely missing from the game plan last week. They tried to do it early. You saw, and Tony Pollard had some success going early, but like you said, once Zach Martin was out, it just didn't really get going. I think they're going to try and establish that early on again, and hopefully, the game plan goes a little bit better. We'll see what happens with Zach Martin during this week in practice, but I think they're going to pound the rock and hopefully, go off play action and get the ball out quick too. I think they're going to pass, or they're going to run the ball to pass the ball. I think they're going to kind of set up that duality and hopefully, get some open receivers and some blown coverages and stuff like that because of just the nature of the play calling. But I don't know, man. I want him to throw the ball. I really do, because I think this West Coast offense is good. I think when it's hitting on all cylinders, you saw it against Philadelphia. It looks like one of the best offenses in the league. Especially Dak getting the ball out quick. Tony Pollard coming out of the flat doing stuff like that, which I loved. But I didn't see any of that against the Bills. But I think they're going to pound the rock. I think that's the smart idea. I hope they do it. Will they actually? I don't know. But I think that can also be supplemented with a short passing game. But definitely pound the rock.
Got to pound the rock. Got to, and got to get the ball to your playmakers. We'll see what happens this week against Miami. But that's the perfect segue. We're going to the last section of this podcast. We are hitting the Week 16 matchup preview and picks. Tanner and I have been doing it all year. Tanner's going to go ahead and update us with the records and what we did last week. But Tanner, I got to let you know I have a typo on the sheet. I am 1 game behind you. So it says on the sheet that our overall season is the same. I am 1 game behind you, actually. I added that in. So go ahead and take us away.
Okay, so this week I went 6-2. I think that's accurate. And my overall season is a 50-33, which is pretty good. 5-3 ratio, basically. I'll take it. You also went 6-2. So you were at 49-34. I think.
Well, now I am at 49-34 because of the mix-up that we had the previous week.
I see.
Of my pick. So yes,
Right.
I am 1 game behind you, and I think this is the first time all season, aside from very early on, that you have the lead.
Well, it's looking like it's 10 o'clock. It's time to cook over here because goodness, we're taking the lead. It's 1 game, but hey, I'll take it. But yeah, I think we're doing pretty well. What do you think?
Hey, we've hopefully made some people some money this year if they listen to the pod. And Hey, we're a sports podcast. We talk a lot of football, RDH sports. That's what we do during the regular season. During the off season, we talk a lot of football still, and we hit a lot of other sports as well. But really get your team ready for the NFL draft. Also, find us on Instagram, rdh.sports, Twitter, same thing, TikTok, and hey, if you're not following us on YouTube, RDH Sports. We're the maroon logo. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Tanner made the logo. Breaking sports news. What are we doing here? Thursday night game, starting it this week, Saints and Rams. This is a huge game. This is a huge game for both of these teams in the playoff picture in the NFC. Who do you got? Because I know who I got.
You know who you got? I think I'm just gonna go with the team that I think is better just overall. I think it's the Rams. Kyron Williams is back and he's playing really really well. And I think this Saints is gonna have this Saints team is gonna have a tough time stopping him, especially with Puka Nacua playing as well as he has and all that stuff. And Matthew Stafford looks pretty good again, so I'm gonna take the Rams.
I'm also going Rams. I didn't want to give it away. Like you said, Puka Nacua is playing out of his mind. The Wookiee, wow, rookie
Wookie.
wide receiver. There we go. That Star Wars reference there for all of our Star Wars listeners. I know you're listening, Brad. But the Rams have way more playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. The Saints have two, in my opinion. They've got Alvin Kamara and they've got Chris Olave, and Chris Olave is coming back from a concussion, was out this week, and the Saints dropped this week too. So I got the Rams, even though the Rams didn't play too well this past week. They've got, like Tanner said, way more offensive playmakers, and I think their team is better defensively. I just think they're a better squad all around. And when Matthew Stafford's hitting, and it's not to Cooper Kupp, what do you mean Cooper Kupp's now the number 2 option? That's absolutely insane. Yeah. And Tanner said it. Carry-on's back, so the Rams are going to be hitting as we get closer to the playoffs, which is going to be fun to see, especially being so close to the stadium here. So Tanner and I both got Rams on that Thursday night game. We got a Saturday morning game, a huge AFC matchup here, divisional matchup. Also playoff implications on this one too, on one side of the ball. Bengals versus Steelers. I'll start us off with this one. I'm going to keep it simple. I don't know how the Bengals have continued to do it on the offensive side of the ball with the lack of Joe Burrow, but the inconsistent play of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, it's very hard for me to pick them unless they're going against one of the bottom seed teams in the NFL. And this offense on the Bengals is humming right now. So lock me in with the Bengals over the Steelers this week.
I think I've been saying it. Joe Mixon has been playing out of his mind recently, and they're going to continue to feed him because you have Jake Browning back there. And yes, he is playing really well, but you got to supplement that with a good running game, or else I think the Steelers can get ahead of you in this game. So give me the Bengals, but I think little caveats. They got to do their job. They got to continue to do what they've been doing these past couple weeks. They can't just air it out against the Steelers because the Steelers will pay you, or we'll make you pay on that. But this team is really good. It's hard to say that you don't put a lot of other quarterbacks back there and they don't also have the same success because of the receiving core that they do have. But
same thing in San Fran.
Same thing with San Fran. Same thing in Seattle. You know what I mean? So it's just some of those things you just got to bet on. So give me the Bengals. Who they?
You gotta take the Bengals, I think, and mm-hmm. This is a huge divisional matchup too. I mean, with Joe Burrow going down, I would have never thought that they'd be in a position to make the playoffs, but here they are. Saturday afternoon, like we said, we're picking a lot more games because it's the playoffs this time. So we're doing Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday night. There's 3 games Saturday, 3 games there's a lot more than 3 games on Sunday, but there's only 3 that we're picking on Sunday, and then the Monday night game. Jumping to the Saturday afternoon game, a team that just steamrolled the Cowboys, the Bills versus the Chargers without Justin Herbert. I'm assuming I know who you got, Tanner, but who are you taking?
Yeah, it's Bills Mafia. This one's going to be over quick. The Chargers just haven't looked good without Herbert, and they look like they can't do anything.
And even with Herbert there.
Exactly. I mean, how many points did they put up? The Raiders did on the Chargers? Like how many points was that?
63. And hold on.
God.
Josh Jacobs was not playing.
I saw a stat that was like, this is like the first time, or like it's been a long time in NFL history since like 2 teams have put up like 62 to whatever score line, 70-20 with the Broncos and the Dolphins earlier in the season. So it's just it's historic. Just keep that in mind,
It's a
Chargers fans.
Madden game.
It is.
It's a Madden
It
game.
is.
I mean, the Chargers, look, this team going into this season was supposed to be a playoff team. Kellen Moore coming over from Dallas was supposed to fix all of the offensive, struggles that they had in air quotes, right? You don't really have a ton of struggles when you have Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler. But hey, right, and Justin Herbert. But did they have some struggles? They brought in Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator from Dallas, and it just has not been a good season for Kellen Moore and that offense. Coaches have been fired, GMs have been fired. We have no idea what's going to happen next year. There's going to be a ton of staff turnover there. So we'll see what happens next year with the Chargers, but give me the Bills in a must-win situation against. I don't even think that one's going to be close.
And I will say
the over.
I will say, yeah. Let's skip this next one because it's not. There's a little bit of a typo. Let's just skip this next one.
That's 2 typos for me. This one, I gotta lock it in next time.
Yeah. So we'll go to Sunday morning. Yeah.
Sunday morning, Tanner will let us know the Saturday night game. That's why he's the smart one of the podcast.
There are only 2 on Saturday. It's Bills and Chargers is the night game, and then Bengals Steelers is the afternoon one.
Oh, there's only 2 games on Saturday.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a mess up by me. Okay, anyway, so we have Sunday morning game, the Browns versus the Texans. I had to put that one in there for Tanner.
Let's go.
Had to put that one in there for Tanner.
Who do you got? I'm going to go the Browns. But I think this could very well go the other way. CJ Stroud, I think he's going to play because I'm pretty sure he was pretty close to playing this week, but concussion protocol kept him back, deservedly so. We saw what happened to Tua a year or 2 ago. You don't want that to happen to your young rookie CJ, but give me the Browns coming off a good win. Well, I won't say good, a messy win, but a win nonetheless. Going up against the Texans, who CJ Stroud's just coming out of protocol. He's a rookie. We don't know if he can bounce back like that yet. Give me the Browns with a dominant defense over the rookie in Houston.
I'll take the Texans. Give me,
hey, what?
Give me Houston. Give me H-Town.
You didn't even think about it?
H-Town, let's hold it down without Tank Dell.
Come on.
With a Browns team that is, somehow slinging it with Joe Flacco getting 300 yards every time. I'm just going against the Browns. You know what I mean? I'm just going to go against
Flacco,
the Browns.
Man, come on.
Dude, here's the thing.
What?
Here's the thing. CJ Stroud has a chance to make the playoffs in his rookie season.
He does.
Then this kid's a gamer. I think he's going to turn it on. I think he's going to turn it on, and I hope he does because I hope that I eat my own words and the Jaguars don't actually win that division. Because, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is clearly hobbled out there. You know what I mean? CJ Stroud's coming off of, the concussion. Those are always scary to come back from. They sat him out the week just to make sure he was okay. Love that. Glad that they made sure he was okay and didn't, just throw him back in. But the Texans need some wins if they want to get that division. So I'm going to go Texans here, and they need a bounce back game after these last couple weeks. So give me the Texans. I think the Browns are going to struggle offensively this week. I think that it's going to be one of those kind of boring football games. The defensive, a lot of people say they're boring. I don't think they're boring. I think they're really fun. Just going to put that on the record, but one of those defensive battle games. Because I just don't think that the Browns have enough power on the offensive side of the ball to do it. But hey, they've continued to do it.
If it's close, I think the Browns get it. I mean, I'm being biased, but Browns have been in close games all season, and they've shown that they can win them. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying.
CJ Stroud, we're going to see what's going to happen. I got the Texans. You got the Browns. It'll be a good one. It'll be a good one. Sunday.
It'll be good.
Sunday afternoon. We're gonna keep this one. We'll try to keep it as short as we can because we just got done on a 20-minute ramble about the Cowboys, like we do every episode. We got the Cowboys and we've got the Dolphins. I think you know who I'm going to pick. I think you probably know who Tanner's going to pick. But tell me why, Tanner. Tell me why you got the Cowboys.
I'm I haven't picked against the Cowboys all season,
Not once.
not once. And then there have been times where I probably should have, but
The
I
first
think
Eagles game, I thought about it. I really did. I
I did
really
too.
did.
I did too because I agree. I thought they were going to split and they did, but I haven't picked against them. Neither of us have all season. This is not the first time. We're going to keep it at 0 because I'm going with the Cowboys. It's just I think Dallas can get it rolling. They just got to expose the Dolphins' weaknesses. I think if you can get to Tua, if you can pressure him, you can get some sacks on him. Micah dominate a little bit on that defensive line, which I think he can. I think this game becomes a lot easier because if Tua's not hitting, then that team is not hitting. We saw him play. I think it was the Jets, and they struggled a lot. Not this past weekend, but I think the time before. It was the Jets, or it was another lower team. But anyways, they need to get Tua going because if they don't, then Tyreek's not getting going. The running game's probably not going to get going either because it's very one dimensional. But give me the Cowboys. I think they're going to get to Tua. I think they really are. I think Tua's going to make some mistakes, and I think the Dallas Cowboys are going to get some turnovers in this game, which are going to help them tremendously. But I think the Cowboys' offense is going to have a rough time. I think it's going to be one of those lower scoring games, despite the offensive firepower from both these teams. I think it's going to be a slugfest down in the trenches, and I think Dallas is going to ultimately get it at the end with a field goal.
I like the call there. It's going to be a close one. One possession game, one score game. Those are
Mm-hmm.
always fun down to the wire, and it's almost Christmas time. That this is literally going to be on Saturday, like we said, so a couple days before Christmas on the 23rd.
I think it's
So
on the eve, yeah, Christmas Eve, right?
or Christmas Eve on Sunday, correct,
I think it
correct. So
is, yeah.
this is the Christmas Eve games on Sunday. Christmas is on Monday this year, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But I got Dallas too, and we'll see in terms of offensive production. But if the Dolphins start to get going and Tyreek's healthy, that's extremely scary. But I still am going to have the Cowboys. I think that they need to figure out this run game before the playoffs start. They've already had a spot, so I think these next games they need to figure out how to use Tony Pollard because clearly they don't know how to use Tony Pollard. And no disrespect to Rico, but I want Tony Pollard out there. I don't want it 60-40 like it's been. I want it 70-30,
Yeah.
even 80-20. I want Tony Pollard to be the workhorse. And maybe that's what they're doing because he's never necessarily had the entire production that he's had. He's always been behind Ezekiel Elliott since he's been in the game coming out of Memphis. And so I want to see Tony Pollard. If you're resting him for the playoffs, okay, I understand. Keep the split going now with what we have. But I need to see that. I need to see plays for Tony Pollard specifically, and I need to see plays for CeeDee Lamb specifically. And I'm going to throw in another name there because I don't think that the Dolphins have a linebacker. They do have a corner that can match up pretty well. A safety is pretty decent on Miami side with Javon Holland, but
Mm-hmm.
you've got Ferg, and Jake Ferguson needs to get going.
I like
And
that.
he is proven this year that he is a literal top 10 tight end in this league somehow out of nowhere. Dallas lets Dalton Schultz walk to the Houston Texans. He still played pretty well in Houston for about 9.5 a year, and then you have Ferguson here, which is just so much less, that is giving you so much more production.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like. So you need to feed your stars. You need to feed the guys that have your offense going, and keep it simple. 1-2 seconds, first read's not there, check it down. Right?
Yeah.
First read, go to your second read, not there, check it down. Dallas needs to get back to that West Coast offense. It's simple. Last week was an ass kicking. Dallas has got their ass kicked a couple times this year, and they've lost a couple close games this year. So I do see this being a close game, but I think that the offense is going to have a way better performance than they did against the Bills. It's going to be a lot. I think the Bills' defense is better than my. That's actually,
It's hard. That's
you
really
know what
hard.
I mean? That's
yeah.
really tough because those defenses are so close. But I see Dallas having a better game this week than they do last week because last week was one of the worst games they've ever had all season.
It's hard to go down from there. But I think with your point, I think you make a really really good point because I think you need to start feeding the guys who don't have Jalen Ramsey on them, who don't have Xavier Howard on them, who are not going to be covered by Javon Holland in the secondary. I think 100% feed Jake Ferguson. Get him the ball early and often. Feed Tony Pollard outside of the running game. I saw them do it against Philly. little passes here and there, like quick 4 or 5 yards. Bam, that's like a nice run play. Just a little supplement for it. I saw him do it multiple times against them, and it works really well. So I think you get. CD is a lovely, lovely target, but I don't know if he's going to be as effective in this game, um, as he has been all season, because it's just they're loaded in the secondary. They're just absolutely loaded. CD's gone against the best of the best, and he's proven that he can do, everything that you want him to. But day's going to be a whole lot easier if you don't try to force feed CD Lamb. If he's open, take it absolutely, but take the little short routes. Take Tony Pollard on a little edge route. Take little Jake Ferguson, a little 5 yard out. He can make things happen. So can Tony Pollard. So yeah, I completely agree with you.
And just give try to give the ball to your playmakers, like we said. That's kind of the theme. But if it's not there, don't force it. You know what I mean? That's kind of exactly what we're both saying. And we'll see what happens this week coming up. But I'm excited. I get to watch some Cowboy football in the Cowboy Man Cave. So
Texas.
We got back in Tejas, making the drive back. But Dallas, we both got Dallas on that one. Jumping to the Sunday night game, we got the Patriots versus the Broncos. You can go ahead and pick this one. Yeah, you can go ahead and pick this one first. I know who I got, but I mean, take us away.
I'm gonna go crazy. Here. Give me the Pats. Zappy, he's been playing all right.
Gutsy
call, but I believe in Bill Belichick. I believe in him because I don't know. The Broncos have looked really good recently, but at times they've looked really bad. So it's just like, I don't know. I'm going to go with the Pats just to throw a wrench in everyone's plans, because why not? The Pats did it against, I think it was the Steelers, right? They just absolutely dominated them in like the first half, and they pulled out the win. But Pats got a little bit of firepower. Broncos have been playing pretty well, though. But give me the Pats in a surprise victory on Sunday night.
I'm gonna go. Broncos Nation. Let's ride. Let's go, Russ. Let's take down those pesky Patriots. Mainly because I have Russ in fantasy because my other quarterback got hurt. So I'm hoping for a Denver win, and I just cannot pick the Patriots. A 3-win team. I just can't do it. But jumping to the last game of this episode, we got Monday night Eagles versus Giants. I know the Eagles have lost 3 in a row, but I think they get back. They have a week of rest. Jalen isn't sick this time. Multiple players were fighting stomach bugs on that Eagles team. So I got the Eagles against the Giants. I know we did a Tommy DeVito reel on our Instagram last week. If you didn't listen to the pod, go check us out, RDH Sport on Instagram. But hey, it's doing well. You know what I mean? Of course, Tommy DeVito is doing well. That's also Tanner's guy. Yeah, that's also your guy now that I think about it. But I'm sorry, Giants fans. I just don't think they get it done this week against Philly, who is hungry for a win. And if the Giants win, then Dallas goes, oh my goodness. You know what I mean? Because now the divisional record goes down and everything changes. But I think the Eagles take it this week against the Giants. Who do you got?
I think the Eagles take it too. It's just I don't think they're going to lose 4 in a row. It's just not something that the Eagles do. This team is too good. I think they're going to figure it out against the Giants. A lot of teams like to figure it out against the Giants, which is fun. But the Giants just don't have a lot. Tommy DeVito, as good as he has been, he's not been exceptional, but as good as he's been, I think this is where it comes to an end a little bit. I think he'll play well. I don't think he's going to play terribly, but I just think that the Eagles are going to do more, especially on offense. I think they're going to get it right. And it's just that Giants defense doesn't really scare me aside from like Kayvon, Thibodeau. Like that's kind of like the only guy they got over there, and it's just, give me the Philadelphia Eagles, go Birds. Like it's hard when you put, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith against these guys, like it's going to be a field day. So give me the Eagles.
You're going to be in for a long day, and if you got Jalen Hurts or you're playing against him in fantasy, I am so sorry for you this week.
Yeah, but I actually saw something before we go. I actually saw something crazy. I don't know who posted. I think it was ESPN or the NFL. But it was like the last 7 Monday Night Football games have all gone to the not the favorite, but the underdog. Yeah, which I thought that was crazy because it's like, dang. 7, it's a record. It's never been done before. Can we make it 8? This is Monday night again. Can we make it 8? I don't think we can, but here's to hoping.
Here's to hoping, and here's to talking more next time in person. We're gonna give you
Yeah.
a show where we're not on two sides of the country. We're gonna be together on the next one, so that's gonna be fun to do from the game room. But it was good talking sports with you. Let's do it again next week.
Oh, bye.